So I was wondering how I can definitively tell if my V12 Aston Martin has the engine tick.
Follow me.
Well, welcome to another episode of Aston1936.com from the UK. And today I am trying to figure out how to definitively know if a V12 Aston Martin engine has the engine tick. And I thought, well, what better place to figure this out is coming to Bamford Rose. So I'll be spending some time with Mike to learn how. And we actually have a car here today that has the tick. So we'll be able to hear what it sounds like cold, what it sounds like when it's ticking. And that way, when I go back to the US, I'll probably be able to tell if my car is in any stage of the tick development. So let's dig in and see how we do this. So I'm here with Mike, and I was going to ask, can you tell me a little bit about this car and how many miles it has and things like that?
Yeah, so this is an early 450 horsepower DB9. This is an AMEP built engine, not a Cosworth built engine. It's 23,000 miles, and this car has just got the onset of the tick. So we can start it up, and it's sort of cold now. Listen to it run, and it will sound like a normal sweet V12, won't develop a tick at all. But as soon as we get a little bit of temperature into it, especially when the pistons start expanding and the small end, the piston pin and the small end bush starts to become out of tolerance, then you can start to hear the tick. Now, you asked what would be the definitive way of understanding if your car had got the tick. Well, listening to it would be one thing, but ultimately, and if you were going to catch this early, the tick is wear. Wear means something that's gone out of tolerance. If it's gone out of tolerance, then you must have some deposits of metal in the oil. So an oil analysis, after you've got a reference, and then after every oil change, you do another analysis and look for the type of metal that is in that bush in your analysis, then that would be the definitive way. So the definitive way probably catches it early, so your fix is the least. In this case, it would be 12 pistons, 12 pins, and 12 bushes. If you wait for it to tick and then run it, then you risk the repair being a bit bigger. And especially, I think that the piston starts to move out of control. That noise that you can hear will be wear, and the wear will be on the thrust, anti-thrust side of the liner. So the piston wears the liner oval, then you're looking at 12 new liners, 12 new pistons, and the fix is a lot bigger. But it takes quite a leap of faith to do some oil samples, have no tick or anything going wrong with your engine, and then see on paper that you've got an increase in one particular metal, and then call that enough info to pull your motor and do a fix. So most cars end up in the state that this one's in, where you can hear the tick and then you have to decide to do something about it.
Well, I'm worried that I have a 450 horsepower car. Mine's an 05 DB9, as you know. So when I get back, I may be looking into these things to figure out what's going on with my car. Is it still not showing any signs? And maybe it'll be a good idea to do a video on that engine oil analysis at some point too, and how somebody can do that, easily and kind of monitor for that as you're talking about. So today, if we were going to go after trying to at least doing the audible detection of it, what's the process that you would normally follow to get a car to tick if it's going to tick?
So just get it normally warm, coolant gauge medium. So you basically got 90-90 oil and water. You'd listen from the underside behind the driver's wheel, and it doesn't matter what side it's on, driver or passenger wheel. Listen from above, and just get a general idea of the normal sort of mechanical noise that each individual engine makes. Then I would rev the engine to about 3,500 RPM and hold that whilst stationary for about 3 to 5 minutes. That replicates a cruise going down a road, and then when you brought it down to idle, that's when you'd hear if an engine was going to tick. So at point of purchase, if you were checking that whatever car you were thinking of buying doesn't suffer this problem, then you could get it warm, run that test. If it doesn't tick, then great, you know you're buying a good car. Now, you know, this one's got 23,000 mile on. It's really unfortunate with this particular problem because there is no rhyme or reason to it. I know of cars that have got plus 150,000 miles on, original owner, so we know it's not had an engine change. And these cars don't develop a tick at all. Yet you can have some such low mileage as this one that ticks. So in trying to identify service history or method of operation, and that would generate the problem, then, you know, I can't say that really exists.
All right, so what would be step one on this car if we were gonna, you know, if I was walking up to my car, is it, so it's start it up and let it idle up to temperature?
Yeah, correct. This one just off cold, you can see on the gauge there. So we'll start this one up and immediately listen underneath behind the wheel, and we'll lift the bonnet up and listen.
Little bit of temperature to gain yet, so we'll just sit here and let it warm up, and I'll try to get a microphone in place to have the before sound for you if it's clear enough.
Well, yeah, if you listen underneath now, you'll hear nothing. There's no tick at all.
And now for some exciting footage of me underneath the car putting my mic in there.
So we're at quarter on the coolant gauge now. I'll just get it up to normal operating temperature, and then we'll do that sort of high speed idle just to get the piston heat soaked to its maximum temperature, therefore maximum expansion.
Okay. How long do you usually let this run for?
About 3 minutes. But this will be interesting. I don't know what this is going to do, yeah? So they never say work with animals or kids, never work with V12 Astons. Right, let's pop it down to idle now and see what happens. Right, no tick. So this is pretty good to show that, you know, if you went to a forecourt somewhere, started the car up, allowed it to warm up, you think that you've warmed it up, yeah? Oh yeah, the engine sounds okay, I'm going to buy it. No.
All right, so here we are. We're fully warmed up, but we haven't replicated the motorway cruise. And just to show you that we still can't hear the tick right now, let me go around and slip the mic under the car again and see what it sounds like. So that, to my ear, mic sounds exactly like it did when we just did the original start.
Yeah, so it's quite important to cover all the sort of technical aspects of this. It's been termed as the dreaded DB9 tick. I think it's dreaded because if you are unfortunate to own the car at the time that this noise develops, then the cost to fix it is quite high, therefore it's dreaded. I've not done this because I've not had someone come to me with a car and allow me to do it, but it's called the dreaded DB9 tick, but it's not the catastrophic DB9 tick. I've never seen a catastrophic engine failure from the small end bushwear. You know, it doesn't result in a fractured piston, a broken com rod, debris pushed through the block. What will happen is the tick will get so bad that it's just too embarrassing to live with, and you just cannot park the car, arrive in a parking lot, park it anywhere and not feel just like the ground could open up and consume you, because this noise is just so embarrassing. So I always say to customers, yeah, you can run it if you wish. You'll probably worsen your liner ovality. That will mean that you'll need a bigger repair job than if you fix it on the onset of the problem, but you ain't going to catastrophically fail an engine. But there will come a point in time where you just can't stand it anymore.
Well, I hope my car is nowhere near that point. So, you know, if I'd just done this, if I was looking at purchasing this car from somebody on Bring a Trailer, I just walked up, started the car, let it warm up to temperature, I'd still have no clue if this car had the tick or not. Because to me, it actually would convince me it didn't, because I don't hear anything right now. So we need to replicate that real deep heat soak, that long motorway cruise now. So is that what we're going to do next, is do a higher RPM, longer run?
Yeah, let's get a warm.
All right. But how long is this going to take?
I would say 3 to 5 minutes.
3 to 5 minutes at about 3,000 RPM?
But bearing in mind that cars that have got the tick, that have had it for a while, they would already be ticking by now.
Because it's more exacerbated. So
this is a very good car to capture the onset of the tick, because we're fully warm and it's running without a tick now.
Okay. Well, let's do it and get it up to RPMs and get the heat soak into it. So cut to the time lapse. So it's been about 5 minutes. We're still running, you know, level on the temperature, but the engine is definitely heat soaked. I'm sitting here in the door well. I can feel the heat pouring out from under the car from the fans. So let's see if the tick is there now as we let the RPMs drop. Oh yeah, let me get underneath so I can record it. Absolutely easy to hear it at this point. So, and it definitely is speed dependent. It's louder underneath when, you know, as soon as I get my head under there, it's even louder. And even sitting here right now, you can probably pick it up on the mic. There's just a tick, 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 tick. And that wasn't there when we were just sitting there before the heat soak.
Yeah, now, like I was saying earlier, now you can hear this noise. Obviously, it's from clearance and excess of tolerance, and it's wear. But I think, I've never done it, but you could take this for a lap of the Nürburgring, thrash the living hell out of it, it will survive, it will come back, and it will sound exactly like that. Maybe it'll be a little bit worse. Maybe as it gets worse, as soon as you start it from cold, it does it, where this needed promoting. So a video that I've done is where I show the piston pin falling through a piston, falling through the connecting rod and going onto the bench. So at room temperature, when you build the engine, you know, that's supposed to be a tolerance fit, so it should never just fall through the assembly. So that piston pin that is falling through the pin, falling through the small ambush, is what you can hear there.
Okay. So it sounds like it's actually harder to hear the noise when we're actually up here with above the engine. There's all the other clatter. Is that kind of typical too? It's easier to hear it underneath?
It is, because the valve train does make quite a mechanical thrash, and that's entirely normal. Unfortunately, some refinement on these cars were not as good as what you'd expect it to be, and you can hear quite a lot of agricultural sounds. So definitely for the tick, it's better to hear it underneath and just behind one of the front
wheel
wheels.
where I was measuring.
Yeah.
So it also seems like now that we, you know, as we move the scene around here, the tick is starting to vanish again. It's starting to fade away. very
Yeah.
slowly, and that's because that heat soak is disappearing out of the engine. It's kind of going back to the way it was before.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, you kind of have to catch it in the right scenario after the equivalent of a really good long drive heat soak.
Well, this is a really good example of the early onset of the tick, because even when it's just normal engine running at idle, when it's fully warm, it's not present. You have to promote it, and it's a real good example to show how you properly have to test it pre-purchase. Okay, obviously Aston made the revision to the small end bush. In the 470 horsepower motors, they've got the oil channel in the small end bush. And okay, if an engine needs new small end bushes, then it's not the end of the world. Right. It can be fixed.
Can be done.
It's take the engine out, strip it down, insert into the connecting rod 12 new small end bushes, ream them to the correct tolerance, and rebuild with new piston pins and pistons. So it's not the end of the world. The problem can be fixed. The end of the world is for the guy or owner that bought the car and didn't have spare budget for repairs.
Taking care of it.
Because although it's very easy to say, take the engine out, rebush it, it actually costs quite a few pennies.
So that will probably be the next video that I'll do in the series. Is we'll talk about if my car was in this condition and developing it, what are my sort of options, and you know where we might go with the solution from there. So that, I think, is where I want to cut this video off and move on to the next one, whatever that's going to be. So I really appreciate you spending the time with me, Mike. I feel like I should be able to go home now and do this test on my own. I'll know if I've got the tick on my V12. So I always have more information available on my blog. You can find a link to it down here. As always, I love it if you'd subscribe to the channel, give us a like, and you'll find a link to do that down here. And does your engine have the V12 tick? Please go ahead and leave a comment down below. I'd love to find out how common this issue is. Let me know what model your car is, what year it is, and how you figured out it had a tick. Thanks for watching.